Hello, welcome to another episode of Cardiff Central Podcast. I've just mind blanked on the actual title, which is a good start. As always, I'm Harley, although about only 50% of my brain is working. So hopefully, the other two are going to be picking up the slack. So as always, I'm joined by Dan and Kazaraza, as he was on the Zoom call before he changed his title. How are we
I
both
thought
doing, gents?
I have a haircut and have a new identity. That was my plan. Really. I walked into work on Monday, and I think genuinely about 10 people said to me, "The hair looks good." My response to every single one was exactly the same. It was, "No, it doesn't look good. Just the last haircut was a shambolic shit show, so it had such a low bar to beat."
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's where I sit on here as well.
managed to get a swear word in the first 5 minutes. That's an achievement for me. Fair play.
It's got us
And Dan, how are
demonetized
you?
on YouTube straight away. Yeah, all good. Back from living the middle class dream of going to Centre Parks on the weekend. So I am not actually need another holiday after chasing a 1-year-old around there.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Cornwall in a few weeks' time. Yeah, so as we Dan brought up YouTube, we are available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to get them from. Please feel free to share, subscribe, particularly on bigging up our YouTube numbers, because basically any ads that appear in those videos, we get jack shit until we get over 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, and let's be fair, it costs a lot to keep Carl winning those haircuts.
Yeah, and you can see my so-called nice haircut as well. I'm not even convinced it's that nice. This is part of the problem. There we go. That's my new rant this week, isn't it?
Oh, we'll get on to Carwin's rant here when we discuss the Sharks game. So before we go into the game, because it depresses me, I think we'll just go through some news. So quick bit. First of all, Cardiff legend Dan Fish has been announced as the new head coach for the Rags. How do we both feel about this?
Yeah, it's a great move. Obviously disappointing that we moved on from Steve Lloyd, done really well, but I think, ultimately the Rags is there as a development tool, and that goes for coaches as much as players. Fishy's done a seriously long sort of apprenticeship. He's been through Cardiff and Vale College, Glamorgan Wanderers, done academy and age grade, been the assistant to the Rags for a couple of years now. So with the new tournament, absolutely the right time to shake it up and get him in there as head coach. And then Josh Turnbull coming in as line out and contact area coach as well. Another one who's done his apprenticeship and takes his first step in the Arms Park coaching rung. And Nick Fish as well as coming in as scrum coach, who no relation, but good for like puns and stuff. But people may not know him, but he's been at Cardiff Met for a good number of years now. I think he's worked quite a lot with their championship side, as well as obviously doing bits and pieces with the Bucks sides. Been in and around the Cardiff age grade setup for a couple of years as well. So really good coaching ticket with Craig Everett staying and Griff still there as director of rugby. I think exciting times for the Rags next season.
Yeah, you say about puns. I'm still trying to work out the best one for like two fishes or something like that. There's got to be a really good one. So there we go. There's our call out. I think this week. How can we sort that? But it's a call out to fans to come up with a good double fish pun. I was thinking about it earlier, but couldn't think of one off the top of my head. Yeah, basically to respond to the original question. I think Dan's put it right. Steve did a brilliant job with Cardiff, and I think it can't be overstated how brilliant a job it is. But obviously, if you're going to move on, I think it's really exciting that it's Dan Fish. I think it's an exciting time for him. It seems the right time in his development. Not too early, not too late, because you don't want to catch him when he's immediately going to be jumping up to a regional role, but also you want to catch him when he's had a bit of time to know what to do, where to be, and the ins and outs of coaching. So I think he's at the right time, and hopefully he can lead a successful time in what's going to be an interesting next couple of years with the EDC.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish both Steve Law and Fishy all the best. With everything that's coming up in the future. Then couple more bits of signing news. So bit of attention. Rory Thornton's re-signed, much to the dismay of of one of my co-hosts on Rap, Seven Story Rory, more the nickname than the player. He seems to dislike. He's signed on for another period of time because we never get told these contracts. It's presumably 2 years. I don't, it's nothing to suggest otherwise. Good signing. Keeps our second row, close to having a full one.
Yeah. Yeah, like he does a good job, manages the line out well. Sorry, it's going to sound horrible. It's not one that gets. It's not one that's going to make people blow their minds away and get extremely excited. But at the same time, I think whenever he does a job really well. Is consistent, plays consistently well, does a good job in the line out, does a good job around the park. You can't criticize him, and it's good to get someone. I suppose in a way he's almost an inexperienced head compared to the likes of Teddy. I think the realistic situation is I'd like to see another one come in. I still would, especially with Shane leaving. We'll see what happens with Tamani, but I'm not sold that he's staying. So I'd like to see another second row come in, and it's be interesting who that is. So yeah, it's probably one second row now as opposed to the two that I was assuming, but maybe two. Then again, when you think of Turnbull leaving as well, so I don't know if Dan has a particular opinion. Would you like to see two second rows come in, or is it one and Ben Donald be as that alternate?
I think like it's one of those, again, back to the same old sentence of what you'd like and what we can actually do, isn't it? Like ideally,
I'd like Eben.
yeah. Ideally, you'd have two and you'd have 5 out and out second rows in your squad, and then a couple of utility guys. But probably realistically, I think we're looking at 1, and then a second row stable of Seb, Teddy, Thornton +1 with Donald, and we'll get onto it probably we'll talk about the Lions game, but I wonder if Alan Lawrence could be a sort of, if he stays, he's played second row at times in his career. I think he played second row in that Misfits team, those Toulouse and Harlequins games. So
does sound familiar.
Yeah, I think
he moved in there. I don't think he started.
Yeah, that's possibly what it was. But yeah,
as an emergency option.
He could be another sort of utility guy there as well. So Thornton, yeah, I think always well. He's not going to be driving season ticket sales by himself necessarily, but he'll be a relatively affordable option who's probably quite happy not being the starter all the time, and just doing a job when called upon. And if you build, the issue with Thornton is that he's just not physical enough. If generally, like he's not a naturally big and physical second row. But if you build a bit of a second row around, a bit of a pack around him, you've got Ed Byrne now coming in. If Evan Lloyd's looking like a big boy, you've got Azarati there. If you put Seb or a new big second row in next to him, because I think realistically you're probably not going to see Thornton and Teddy together too much. They're quite similar style second rows maybe. Teddy's obviously got a bit more to his game generally, but I think just as a more direct comparison, it's Teddy and Thornton as you kind of line out set piece guys, and then Seb, and hopefully then the other second row comes in is maybe a non-Welsh qualified, bit more of a physical enforcer type guy. Donald's looking quite big. Man's only going to get bigger at 6, Big Mac at 8. It's a big enough pack around him to carry a Thornton then, who obviously is very good line out technician, and he's got a decent set of hands then if you're not relying on him to be that enforcer. So yeah, solid enough sign in on the assumption that it's probably not taking a huge amount of budget out of what we don't. I don't think we even know the budget yet, but yeah, imagine he's not going to be massively expensive.
No, he's 2 caps, isn't it? I know a while ago, so you think
it was that 2017 tour as well. So it's you got when you say it's Captain International, you do have to look at the context of when the game was.
The other thing about him as well,
remember Kirby Mayhole got a cap, and even he doesn't understand how it happened.
Was it the Japan tour that 2017, or is it the Samoa and
Samoa, where I think they had to play the Tongan game in? I think that was like a warm up for the Lions test a Lions match. It was like on the same field, like an hour or so before, it finished now before the next one started.
They played one in the local park, wasn't it? Basically, how muddy it was. It was horrible.
Is it Corey Allen
I
who
said,
almost
I
got
can't remember if
killed?
it was Samoa or Tonga, but one of them they played New Zealand. The other one was in the venue, and it did look like a community park.
But just the last thing on Thornton to say is that he did captain Wales under 20s, and talk about leadership and stuff. I think just generally look, you see bits on social media and stuff the club put out. I think he's quite a well liked and quite respected guy in that group. So having a bit of seniority in there and somebody who adds to the culture off the pitch is as important to a degree as how much you offer on the pitch as well. So no harm in keeping some of the good apples in and around the squad, even if they're not going to be pushing the starting 15.
Is he doing coaching or something? Have I seen something along those lines?
Yeah, he's coaching Cardiff Uni, so he was
Yes,
on
that
the
was it.
sidelines in the varsity game.
Varsity.
So
That's what I've seen.
yeah, James from the Ospreys pod likes to refer to him as losing varsity coach Rory Thornton. I did point out that we won the whole thing, so bugger it.
And if you did the aggregate scores between the men and women, then it'd be an interesting scoreline, wouldn't it?
It'd be very much a Cardiff win, yes. But yeah, I digress. So the other big signing, we've gone Route 1, typical Cardiff signing. We've got a Tarty back, and if I had a little soundboard I could play on Zoom, I'd be playing some sort of klaxon or whatever. So I've not seen a lot of this guy because he played for Newcastle Falcons. Dan, you shared a load of clips of him, so maybe you can discuss a little bit more about the new guy.
Yeah, Ewan Stevens is he's coming in from Newcastle. He's grown up in that area, but he's Welsh qualified. Older viewers might remember his dad Colin played for the Scarlets and Wales. I think he was a fly half. But yeah, he's obviously grown up in the north of England. He's come through the Leeds Rhinos Rugby League Academy initially before switching to Union. He's only 22. He's played 25 games for Newcastle, scored 11 tries, which is a pretty decent record. I think just going back to what Jockey said on the pod when he come on the other week about how he wants his sort of back line to look, with one slightly more physical winger, which is a Josh Adams in his book, or a Gabe Hamer-Webb, as you saw on the weekend, a bit more of a unit. And then the other side is a bit more of a quicker winger. And Stevens is definitely in that category. He's can't be sort of more than 5'8", 5'9", very low center of gravity. With the rugby league background, brings really good footwork, good finishing. He's absolutely rapid. I'd be interested in a race between him and Cabango at some point, because I'd possibly put a sneaky fiver on Stevens being slightly quicker than Cabango, if anything, certainly over the first 5 yards. Bit of work to do defensively, positionally, as you might expect for an ex-rugby league guy. That backfield coverage is slightly different. It's a lot of coming up quickly on the edge in rugby league versus sort of drifting a bit more in Union when you're on the wing. But yeah, still young, plenty of time to learn. Will be having come away from Newcastle, where obviously it's been quite tough up there the last couple of years. Wouldn't have thought he'd have cost that much out of the budget either, to be honest. So seems like a pretty handy pickup, assuming that's the last backs business we do now, because we need some forwards now.
I mean, there's one area we probably could do with the backs. We could probably do with another 13.
Yeah,
or 12, 13, but
maybe a 9 as well. But mainly, I just the next one just to be a forward, just to keep everybody relaxed, I think.
Yeah. Forward, preferably second row, because I think second row or a 7 second row, but not like how Rob Baxter uses Chinza. That infuriates me to no end. Yeah, and I said, yeah, 22, young lad, so it's good chance to try and mold him into the play we want. So yeah, sure. There is one big issue with him though, based on the photo that was in his signing announcement. He needs to sort that lid out. Fuck me, that's terrible.
Must have been a bet. Must have lost.
It's either a bet or a fine. Like,
yeah, I was going to say the roll of the
pudding
dice.
bowl and blonde. Blonde highlights. It's just it's awful. Anyway, so unfortunately, gentlemen, we do have to talk about last weekend. So we lost 34-13 to the Emirates Lions, which on the face of it seems like an absolute hammering, but actually, considering that there were 2 tries both in the last 7 minutes, not as bad. However, I'm sure Carwyn's winding up now, ready for his rant. Just a few of my own thoughts. I've basically said a lot of it on the wrap already, so feel free to listen to that. But basically, our attack just isn't working. If we're going for points, we've actually got to kick them, which is leading us on to Carwyn, as he's getting agitated. So, Carwyn, let loose.
Yeah, to be fair, it's nothing probably, especially Welsh-speaking listeners wouldn't have heard on comms, which was Gwyn Jones moaning about why they were going for posts. So I didn't quite get it. It's when you go down to South Africa, you're going to need to score tries. You just know you know that's what's going to have to happen. You've mentioned several times that De Beer isn't the most reliable kicker. It's not like you've got Halfpenny who's just going to keep churning them out, or a Neil Jenkins who's going to keep churning them out. You can score 30 points with penalties, but it's just it was the moments when they decided to go for posts were odd. I thought the momentum seemed to be with them. Why not go for touch? I had a slight worry at one point. Was it a lack of faith in Evan Lloyd's line out and the line out drill? And that would worry me if that was the thought process, because I don't think he was missing many, and it wasn't like they were 0 for 7 at that point, and therefore the lineup was an absolute catastrophe. It wasn't like it was some other teams we've seen this season. So I really didn't back the decision making. I thought that going for posts at the times they were doing was poor decision making. It should have been going for touch. And to be honest, I felt when you get those opportunities in South Africa, you have to take them. And if you don't, it comes to bite you in the backside. And it did, because Lions are too good a side not to score tries, and they duly did that in the second half. And yeah, it's not so much a rant, just a frustration of it seemed obviously the wrong decision, especially when 2 were missed, to still keep going down that route. But hey ho, I'm sure there was a reason behind it. Maybe it was a tactical plan before the game, but I thought decision makers on the pitch should have changed that tactical plan.
Dan, do you want to hop in for?
Yeah, I don't. On a general level, I don't mind posts as an option. I don't think we've actually done it enough this season, generally, just in terms of keeping the scoreboard ticking over and keeping us in games. But I mean, Carwyn's spot on in that. Not in South Africa, number one, and two, not when your kickers faltering. No, what I don't quite understand. Just another thing to add to the list of things I don't understand is why don't we turn to Ben Thomas when De Beer's not on it off the tee? Because he's not a dreadful goal kicker, De Beer, but he just is very up and down with it. Some games, absolutely no problem at all. He nails the first. When he gets a bit of confidence, he goes from there. He'll kick at 95 to 100%. But then on a game like Saturday, we've seen it a couple of times where he misses 1 or 2, and it just knocks him, and then he's down at sort of 60, 70%. And at that point, then I don't understand why either he or Ben Thomas or one of the leaders on the pitch, as it was Ben Thomas himself actually on Saturday, but isn't saying, right, we're switching out then and Ben's going to take over. You saw like in South Africa do it in the World Cup when Libbok wasn't kicking very well, and so Faf takes over, whoever it was. But so, if the world champion Springboks can do it, then I'm sure Cardiff can. It's not a slight on that player. I think it was Libbok and Siya Kolisi who said afterwards, like, it's the team that steps up when others can't, and De Beer was actually pretty good ball in hand on Saturday, so you wouldn't have hooked him. Some of his sort of late passing and drawing of defenders was pretty decent, but kicking off tee and kicking out of hand, he wasn't great. I thought he was trying a bit hard, maybe being back in South Africa and close to where he grew up and all that sort of stuff. It's understandable, but yeah, I'd question the leadership and from the coaching box as well. They can get messages on and just say, we don't have to just stick with guys constantly so we're not hurting their feelings or whatever it is. On a general level, though, Saturday attack again, yeah, it's frustrating with the attack because it's so close but so far at the same time. We're getting in really nice shapes and we're making some really nice half breaks, but we're just not converting that at all and not looking like converting it really. And first half, early on in the first half, Cam Winnett flies through, hits the line really nicely, hits the gap. It's got Birchnew on the inside, but you look back and sort of Grady's just jogging. Hamer Webb's in a position where the ball can't reach him on the right-hand side. Our forwards are quite mobile, but none of them are up there as well. And it's almost like, some teams, when they break, it's just an automatic switch. Everyone flies through, is looking for the support lines, looking how he can get over the try. And Cardiff, I feel like the first thought is, oh great, he's gone through, and that's sort of it. Or simply, right, we'll get as close to him as we can so we don't lose it at the next breakdown. And yeah, it's frustrating. That I think it's probably a bit of a confidence issue. But if we could convert even half of these chances that they're creating, getting into good positions, getting into good shapes, making line breaks into tries, we'd have won comfortably at 3 or 4 more games this season. But because there was a lot of good actually on Saturday, I was frustrated after the game because it felt like, after the same as the last few weeks, that we're getting so close and then we're sort of plateauing a little bit. We're not massively improving in some areas, but the scrum went well. I thought we were quite good defensively on Saturday. We only conceded, you can see the one try from a tap penalty, and the other one where we sort of gone quick at the end and they've run it back down. We haven't conceded much from phase play, so set pieces going all right. Maul defense was pretty good. Conceded the one try, but on a general level we did well. And so it's just those little 1%ers. We are so close but so far, and that I think that's probably going to be the story of the season ultimately.
Can I just jump quickly in on a couple of those, just generally on the second kickers thing on Ben Thomas? I 100% agree. I think I remember Conor Murray taking over from Sexton when Sexton wasn't kicking well. If they can do that, then who else can't? Like, it seems to me that almost generally across the board in Wales we don't do it as much. Like, you think of Gavin Henson's great moment against England, like that doesn't happen unless Steve-O says, "I'm not kicking well, you take it." Like, it did seem to be a thing back then, but now it doesn't. Obviously, there is an exception. Beetham did take the kick from 50, but it does seem to be only a long kicker versus one true kicker. And then you say about in general the defense was good, yes, but at the same time switching off at key moments, and some of those tries are too cheap. The tap penalty one is so cheap.
Yeah, that's transition stuff though, which I think we are actually quite poor at, when we should be really good at it.
Yeah,
on both ways as well, going forward as well. But yeah, like I think Gethin will have murdered a few people, assuming he's gone to South Africa. I think he will have like I think Jockey said in the press today they didn't train on Monday, because I assume Gethin was just like waterboarding people in the hotel pool or something.
or as someone said, what was it? Gareth said about Mark Jones giving them a right tune in, which I thought was very, very like 70s farmer language for Alex Cuthbert. But yeah, I think I do agree the defense scrum went well, but it's that defense went well, and it's the but you can't switch off. You can't switch off for 10 minutes, and that's the case for all the regions. I'm not just saying, this isn't the Cardiff issue. You look at Dragons on the weekend, you look at Ospreys on the weekend, you look at Scarlets on the weekend, or most weekends, and they switch off for 10 minutes and concede 2 or 3 tries. Now, if you're a Leinster and possibly don't have as good 10 minutes, you might concede 1 try. That's partly the difference, but also the difference is they don't have as many 10 minutes where they switch off. They don't do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a season. And to be honest, I thought, the Horn try is just it is a poor one. It's really good identification of space from a Lions perspective, I will say that, but it's really poor to switch off to that extent. And then a couple of the others, I thought the Maul was a little bit soft. I thought, but there were positives, and I think that is the important thing to get onto is the positives. And some of the attack was lovely. Cam, I thought, looked brilliant in attack. I'm trying to shake.
if I was a South African team, I'd be looking to sign him because he is made for that hard, fast
Oh,
track
yeah.
down there. Like, he looked like when was it Clayton Blumenkeys? I can't remember when he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
superb
Blumenkeys.
for the Cheetahs that year. He's just going to
Yeah,
look like him again.
yeah, exactly. I completely agree. He looks born to it. Born. I was going to say born to be wild, and I was sort of
Oh, he
backtracked
could
away
have
from it, and now I've gone full into it.
dancing in the arms back.
Yeah, and then I thought Hamer Webb was it's so good to see him back. I really do like him. I think and from a brief chat with him, he seems like a really decent bloke. But as a rugby player, I do really like him. He just seems like a um, very natural replacement for Summerhill. But also on top of that, I think he's got a bit more size about him, and a bit more. You saw with that break that he made on the shoulder. I think he does seem to be smart the lines he's running. I don't know if that's him or if it's people telling him where to be, but he's doing the right job. And yeah, fair play. I thought it was a really good showing from him as well. Although, granted, then I have said before that that was a poor try we conceded to probably the backfield, and maybe he should have been there. But hey ho,
He's
um,
considering. I think it was early Jan. He played that one-off game for Saints, and
yeah,
he is in unbelievable nick. I mean, that's sort of 3.5 months odd without playing. And I don't know if either of you do follow him on Instagram, or if anyone listening watching does. I think he's involved in some sort of like fitness club in Bath, and I mean, he posts some of this stuff like working out and running 5Ks and stuff. I'm borderline blocking him. He is, he's just disgustingly in good shape. But yeah, he was really good. I thought Ben Thomas went well at 12. That he carried
mm,
quite well as well. I liked Alan Lawrence off the bench, mentioned earlier,
superb,
but
superb.
yeah, coming. I imagine it was a predetermined one to swap him and Mac at
I'm not
8.
I'm not 100% sure because Mac was carrying something, wasn't he?
Oh, is he okay?
First
And
half there was I don't know if it was sorted out, but certainly first half he was there seemed to be a calf. Something was
okay.
going on a little bit.
But he comes on, and considering he hasn't played a huge amount either, to be fair,
Oh.
and he's been unsure about his contract at times because this season, because we've sort of rolled him on, I think, rather than just sign him up for the rest of the year. Yeah, he picked some beautiful lines, and he was good the first time he came to the club, to be fair. And I was disappointed he didn't get more attacked by a cat. He's disappointed he didn't get more game time the first time, but I would certainly consider keeping him beyond this summer if there's a little bit of budget there, because I again assume he's not commanding a huge fee necessarily, and as a 4-6-8 option where Falatau's toward the end of his career and Mac's going to be in and around the Wales squad, and so is Man. I think we could certainly do worse than picking him up as a squad player.
Oh, I thought he was superb on the weekend. Absolutely superb. Couldn't fault him. And then yeah, you said about Ben Thomas. For me, he's got to be on the plane this summer.
Yeah.
I just I really hope. And one thing I will say is that combination between the two of them, him and De Beer, is clearly beginning to become so good and
Yeah.
so instinctive now. Um, and that has truly paid dividends from Jockey playing them week in week out together and saying, right, you're my 10, you're my first choice 12, you two are playing together, and come what may, I'm going to keep picking you and see how it goes. And yeah, De Beer didn't have his greatest game on the weekend, but I thought Thomas was superb. And I really do hope he gets a shot this summer to show what he can do, because I think um, that yes, Wales the one obvious issue is Wales do need gain line, so that if you play him at 12, you'll need to find gain lines from somewhere else, perhaps to some extent. Although I think he's really drastically improved his ball carrying. But I think he's been so good this summer. He certainly deserves to. Sorry, this season he certainly deserves to travel this summer, and I really hope he does.
Also, a 10 option. Another person I thought was actually pretty good off the bench was Ellis Bevan. I thought he pretty good when it came on. Things seemed just neaten up. Yeah, so Gonzalo Bertrand went off at half time with what turned out to be a fractured face. No idea how it happens. Apparently, there was an alleged swinging arm that was missed. Kel Surprise, a Welsh side, go somewhere and a serious thing of foul play is missed. I'm sick of that discussion. I'm not going to bother going into it. One last little bit of news, which thank Dan reminded me. WhatsApp. Kieran Parker also announced his retirement, which probably a bit unfortunate for the guy. You know, as a Cardiff career of red card, massive injury. Finally comes back, has a couple of games where he's all right, and then goes.
Yeah,
announced his retirement. I think he's been around the blocks for quite a while. He's 28 though, still quite young, especially in prop terms.
Yeah, well, all the announcements said that he's going into something else in the future, which suggests to me that perhaps he's looked at the money, looked at the opportunities, and gone, well, there's something better here, or he's got something that he's really passionate about and wants to give that a go. Either way, I really wish him all the best. I do really feel for the bloke, because to come down, have that moment against Benetton, which was, so. Pardon?
It was just thick.
He got it drastically wrong, yes, but like I feel so sorry for him that then he didn't get a look in for so long afterwards. I do really do sympathise with the guy, to be honest. He's got you talk about making mistakes and things like that. He's made one mistake, and through a mix of that and injury, then basically barely played for a whole season when he might have been hoping to resurrect his career, or may have been hoping to do something different. Whatever it was, it hasn't worked, and I do wish him all the best for the future. And it's not just because I feel partly responsible for putting that clip on social media, but of him making the high tackle. But like, it was my job. But yeah, I do wish him all the best, because I know it was probably a rough time for him after that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to add to that, Dan?
No, it seems like a nice bloke. Seems like he's got something set up. I think he's some kind of financial services degree behind him, and he's going into a job there. First child on the way. Yeah, cheers and good luck.
Yeah, absolutely all the best, Kieran. Moving on to sort of the preview section. So we are heading to Durban to face the Sharks. After last weekend, have slipped just ahead of us on the table. We're both on 25 points, but they're ahead by virtue of having more wins. Now, the optimist in me says we have yet to lose the Sharks in the URC.
Is that
However,
true? Have we played them at home?
Yeah, we played them at home first year, and then we played them away second year.
Did we beat them?
And we won both. Yeah, we beat them at home.
Oh, no, I don't remember.
It was the week after. It was the week after they dropped goal the heck out of the Ospreys from the goal line dropout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we
Owen Bosch, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cohen Bosch had drop called them out. We beat them then the following weekend because we played Balls the week before, and Bismarck Duplessis basically just destroyed half of our pack after coming on when we were in the lead with like 10, 15 to go. And we basically I think it was a fairly similar score to the game this year. But I digress. Anyway, so how do we think this game's going to go?
Depends what team the Sharks turn up with to a degree. They went pretty fully loaded against Benetton. Picked up a couple of injuries, I think, as well. Did Etebek go off injured? I think I read. They obviously play us on Saturday and then go straight into playing Gloucester in the Challenge Cup final on the following Friday in London. The assumption, therefore, is that they go very changed and turn up with a sort of second 15. I mean, we're equally capable of losing to their second 15 as much as their first 15, but they've been poor this season, the Sharks, and obviously they shouldn't be, because that big bold bloke is pumping loads of money into them, and they've got a lot of Springboks and a lot of depth in their squad, but something's not clicking with the coaching or the style of play they're trying to go for. It is vastly different. Obviously, they've got a lot of Springboks, but then they play quite an expansive style of play, whereas we're used to the Springboks being very direct and in your face and physical about their play. I've seen them a couple of times. Obviously, they played the Ospreys and Twickenham, and they came down to, I say down, obviously I'm in Llanelli, so it's only over there. They played Park Scarlets with their full team a couple of weeks ago. And they score some nice tries, but they're frail defensively. They not great in the air. In the sort of when the game gets unstructured, they very poor at sort of regaining their structure. They're there to be turned over on the ground, which obviously we quite enjoy doing.
Seen it.
Yeah. So we can get at them, and I hope the players, they obviously, it's the end of the season. We've used pretty much all of the same players all year, so there's going to be some tiredness there. We haven't got the squad to rotate, but I'd love it if they've just enjoyed a couple of days in Durban. It's, from a couple of the shots of the players posted on Instagram, they're staying in a really nice spot down on the beach there. It's back at sea level. Weather looks great. If they can just sort of rejuvenate themselves for one huge 80, they're a team we can get at, and they're a team we can beat. I think we've just got to back ourselves in the key moments to execute. If we can win more of those little moments than we lose, then I'd fancy us to get a statement win here. But the concern is that it goes the way of some other games this season, where just in those key moments we're a yard or two off on a kick, or on a pass doesn't quite go to hand, and then we're struggling again. But this is one that I think they will have circled in the calendar a little bit, especially once the Sharks got to the final of the Challenge Cup and said, yeah, I fancy we could get something out of this.
Go on.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's the obvious thing to say in the back of that is there's only been one side this season to win away out of Wales. This is only one Welsh side to win outside of Wales this season. So it's difficult. It's going to be extremely difficult. Do I see Sharks resting a few? Yes. Do I think that's necessarily a bad thing? I'm not 100% sure, because, like Dan said, at the moment, Sharks appear to be like a team of superstars thrown together that haven't really played together, and structurally they are so flimsy, as Dan said. I watched them on the weekend. Honestly, it's Scarlets had their 10 minutes where they switched off, and that's when Sharks capitalised. And a couple of weeks ago, sorry, rather I should say. But at the same time, Sharks are not a great side by any stretch. I don't know why. I say it's a side that seems to be cobbled together. These guys have played together week in, week out for several years. You're talking about some of the best players, frankly, some of the best players in South African history, and world history in the case of Eben as well. But you then look at certain areas of their game. It's just that the scrum isn't as dominant as you think it would be. The line out seems okay, but not as strong as you'd expect it to be with the strength of players they've got. Then you've got a back line which, for some reason, Am and Mapimpi are playing as if they've never played together before. You're talking about guys a guy who was having a no-look pass to win a World Cup a few years ago, and it's like it just seems to be not quite cohesive. And you're comparing that to a Cardiff side that have been cohesive. That's something you certainly couldn't criticise. Is the cohesion at Cardiff has been very good. The game plans at Cardiff have been quite clear generally. There's obviously been a plan there. So I'd like to think that Cardiff can get a result and get a scalp out there. The difficulty is at the back end of a horrifically long season it now is for lots of these players, being out in South Africa after a tough loss the week before is going to be really difficult. And I think I want to back them, but I'm not sure. I think it could be close though, and I'm probably going to say Cardiff lose by 3, and there we go. We're back to the same old narrative. But I just don't see it quite happening.
Yeah, I think before we go into, I probably lean towards you going, especially because I thought they looked knackered before they kicked off against the Lions. So God knows what it's going to look like with the Sharks. Should we just for funsies, even though we almost all invariably get it wrong? I mean, we'll get 2 correct at least. Should we go through the team we think will play, as opposed to a team we'd like to play? because otherwise I'd be putting a lot of Sharks on our team. And Kidwelly under sevens for the Sharks or something. No offense to Kidwelly under sevens, of course.
What's wrong with Kidwelly under sevens?
Yeah, start off. I just don't think they've got the same development. I think Domachowski and Azarati could tune them in the scrum quite easily, because I don't think they'll have started learning scrums yet.
That would be GVH, wouldn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. So it would certainly be less of a challenge than going up against Oxenche and was it Thomas DeDoit, isn't it there? Right. So speaking of front row, shall we go with who do we think is going to be a front row? Do you think it'll be the finishing front row start this time? Or would we go back to the start because they came off quite early?
I think you might go like super strong and from the start. There's obviously last week there was a selection with the altitude in mind and picking players for that. I could see him returning to the front row this weekend.
Yeah,
Domachowski, Belcher,
Azza. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Carry off the bench actually could be quite impactful as well.
Yeah. Good to see Litterick back last weekend as well. Just to add, I thought
he looked quite good as well. So, should we pencil him and Litterick, Carey and Litterick in as our bench props?
Yeah. And then I just wonder if you might go back to alternating the backup hookers then and slot Daniel in ahead of Lloyd potentially.
Yeah. Any recourse on that one, Cohen?
That sounds fine. Yeah.
Second row, Teddy didn't travel, I believe, so we're going to go Thornton and Seb again.
For me, because Man is out there, I'd wonder whether he goes a bit more physical this weekend and goes Seb Donnell and puts Donnell back into lock and brings Man back at 6, and then Thornton. But I thought it went all right last week. But I think Man probably comes back into that starting 15, having gone out there and judging by the training images, is training fully this week. So it's just I think Seb almost certainly starts then, and there's a Donnell v Thornton then. I don't know, no strong feelings either way, but I just wonder if he might go a bit more all out physical up front for this one and bring Donnell in.
John?
Yeah, sounds good. I quite like the sound of Seb Donnell, by the way. Seb Donnell sounds like a legendary Irish/Scottish player, doesn't it? Of the past.
He sort of sounds like he could also be in Westlife as well or something.
Yeah.
Should we check Thornton? Are we going to? I say check. Are we going to put Thornton on the bench for that then as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be. I don't think we've got anyone else.
So I'm doing subs. I'm going to do subs at the same time just because it's easier. So back row, I think if Donald's starting a second row, man to 6, both of them at 7 again because I don't know who else.
Yes, no, there is no other 7s.
And then do we reward Lawrence for the performance and give him the
I reckon it'll be Big Mac.
Yeah, I think it looks like Mac's trained fully this week as well, judging by the images and stuff. So I think he'll stick with Mac.
Yeah.
But then it'll have to be Lawrence off the bench because I don't think there's another back rower out there then.
I was going to say, do we have any more forwards out there?
Shane Lewis Hughes is out there as well, isn't he? But
because I'd be tempted when we get onto the next bit to perhaps maybe just go for the 6-2 and just throw everyone in there.
Put 6 to it. Obviously, actually might. It depends what. Because we'll discuss now. I guess we'll come on to 9.
So halfbacks, it's got to be Ellis Bevan at 9 because there is literally no one else, and then Tina Stabir covering 9 at 10.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
It's going to have to be. Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't looked at dipping into a local South African team to pick up a 9, but maybe Jockey's thinking I wouldn't use him unless something happens to Bevan anyway, so there's no point just chucking somebody on the bench who I'm definitely not going to use. But
so I think it's going to be an 80 for Bevan, I suppose, and we've got 2 weeks before Judgment Day to rest up as well, so that's one thing. So to be that. So centres, we're going to go same again. Thompson Grady. I know Lilo and Halahola are with us, but
I don't see it. Just on a general thing, I would like to see us use Grady a little differently.
Mm.
I don't think we've quite seen the best of him in an attacking sense since he's moved into
Yeah.
13.
No.
I think he's actually he's sort of surprised in that defensively he's been pretty good. Like he hasn't made any major errors, and that was the big question mark over moving him into 13. But then we've lost some of his, where he was on the wing and he had that free roaming ability. He was popping up and making real progress. And in 13, he's a little bit more structured and tight, and we're sort of half using him as a dummy guy and half using him short, and it's just not quite working either way. So, but yeah, I still start him at 12 and 13, but I'd just like us to switch up slightly how we're using him. Definitely try and get him on some more outside arcing runs rather than keep bringing him short all the time.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit easier to defend him at 13. I think so. I mean, someone was quite harshly did suggest that he's been anonymous since he's come back to 13, but I don't think it's true because I think defense he's been doing quite well. But yeah, I think when you're a winger, you can pop up. You can sort of move around, whereas I feel like with the outside centre, they tend to keep him. Maybe we need someone. Maybe we need another wing/13 type, because obviously we used it the other way with Ray Lilo popping up on the wing, and then the blindside winger would come into the line. Maybe we need something like that, which allows Grady to roam a little bit more. But
Josh could do that, couldn't he? Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
As
long as he doesn't have to defend 13.
I knew you'd get it in. It's the interesting thing with Grady. You say I think that he's easier to defend at 13. He's only as easy to defend as you make it.
Yeah,
I think that's more the point, and I agree with Dan's point that it reminds me a bit of what Wales are doing with George in the Six Nations, using him as a dummy runner and not quite using him to when he's got that fit. When you're physically as blessed as these guys are, you want to give them the ball, and it's not. It's not maybe Wales of 2008 were giving it to Shane and hope for the best, but it has to be a little bit of, right, who's our best ball carrier? Just give him the ball early, and then, okay, a couple of phases later, let's give it to him on an outside arc channel. Let's let him run at a loose forward or a front five forward, ideally, or even a 10 or a 9 or whoever you can. He can run over a 10 or a 9. He can run round a 10 or a 9. He can run round a forward. He can run through plenty of players. So you want to get him on that one-on-one situation, and that's why he was so explosive on the wing. That's why he's so dangerous on the wing. We'll find a way of getting enough ball carriers around him that's a situation. I think when you have one of your centres acting as your primary playmaker and De Beer out the back, you are sort of limited in that because you're not doing a pass from 10 where you've got two options running. So therefore the centres have to make a singular decision. So, I think about like times where you had Parks and Foxy where you had both running at the same time, or North and Foxy probably more applicable, and people had to make a decision. Who are you tackling? Well, that's what you want with Grady. And I think Ben Thomas has improved his ball carrying enough that you could look at it and think, oh shit, I've got to try and make a decision between tackling Ben and Grady. Probably means then you give more ball to Ben, which then he carries probably makes a few busts. But yeah, I think that's maybe about altering the style and trying to find different ways of breaking down rather than the constant out the back. Then it's De Beer versus Grady as a you're deciding between those two, which is a probably easier decision to make.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that right. Back three then. So do we go same again, or do we bring a couple of changes in? So maybe like a Josh Adams if fit, or do we bring Beetham in just because then we do have that long range boot option?
I'd be surprised if Beetham doesn't start. I don't know why, but it seemed. I don't know. I think Cam's been brilliant, and that's not me saying Cam should be dropped, but it's more. It seems whenever we get these blocks of 2 games, it tends to be a rotation, or has been in the past. Maybe not so much recently, but I think there's a good chance that you could see Beetham start. But then again, when we covered to talk about the bench, Beetham's versatility is so useful for the bench that you maybe don't want him to start. I don't know if either of you got a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I would start Winnett personally. If I was picking the team, I don't think he's droppable really at the moment, essentially form wise. But yeah, certainly in terms of how the season plays out, and keeping players sort of fresh and managing workloads. Yeah, if Beetham was there, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily. I think probably the more likely back three change is that Adams does come back in. I think he had a groin question mark last weekend, but he seems to be training fully this week and put something up on Instagram saying he was enjoying being back with the boys properly or something. So the question then perhaps of who he comes in for, because although in Jockey's ideal team, it's probably a straight swap for Hamer Webb, Cabango has played quite a lot and is obviously returning from injury, so there's a workload management aspect for him. And then sort of going back to what we said about getting Grady in the game and stuff, having two slightly bigger wingers who can maraud in field and make a bit of space for Grady might be the answer to his attacking restrictions as well. So I personally always like Adams off the left wing as well, a bit more. I just think he's slightly more natural. Like, what we saw from Cabango last week is that he dug himself out of some gaps and got some half breaks, but you do have to have a slightly more physical edge in South Africa, because that on that left hand side you're going to go up against Werner Kok, who is, he's just mad. He's rapid and he's physical and he's work rate.
He's just a very quick flanker.
Yeah, you're not going to get the ball to Cabango in a yard, and he's not going to be able to go around the outside of Werner Kok. It's just not happening. So you bring Adams in there on that left wing, who's a bit more wily in the way that Werner Kok sort of is, and has a bit more of a sort of tactical experience head battle with him. That could be something they consider. But I think ultimately, probably the highest percentage back three in terms of what Jockey's going to pick, I would say, is Adams, Winnett, Cabango, because I think that's probably our first choice back three when everyone's fit at the moment.
Yeah,
I'd be tempted to agree with that. Yeah, any recourse to that?
Yeah,
so going Cabango.
I agree with that. I'd like to see Adams versus Kok, though. I do agree with that. In short, when you say about Kok being like he's a sevens player, and and like I was having a discussion with Lloyd Evans, former Wales sevens player, about this, and now head of PDC Swansea. And you when you watch sevens players, they have such distinctive traits, particularly breakdown. Like honestly, the Darcy Graham, Villiers, Tipperick,
Jasmine Joyce from the women's game.
Jasmine Joyce, that's the example he used was Jasmine Joyce as well. They just have the exact same attitude in a breakdown, which is, I'm going to beat you one-on-one. And it's that one-on-one mentality of immediately getting around, getting up, getting in, and beating the opponent in the breakdown. And Kok is boom or bust, though. I will say that as well. Some games I've seen him be terrible, like borderline. Borderline. What was the club again? Harley. Which one's getting the harsh criticism?
I can't even remember. It was just an under sevens team. Yeah, just pick any random Welsh name and under sevens. And
Werner Kok's playing for Kidwelly under sevens on the week.
Yeah, Kidwelly under sevens. I'm looking Ponta Tower under sevens anyway. But he's borderline that. But other weeks he's honestly looking like the next big thing in South Africa. But so I do agree he's one you can get at, and particularly in the aerial battle. Weirdly, he's not good going backwards at all.
I think that's how we've exploited in previous games, is basically just bombing over the head. And I think it might have been Adams we sent in after it, but could have also been like a Mason Grady or a Cabango.
It would have been Adams, wouldn't it? Because he was wearing a lot of 11 last season and the season before.
Yeah, because we had a fully fit Owen Lane playing 14 a lot. Yeah, so I think that's fair enough. Getting to the bench, so we've got 3 jerseys left to fill. We don't have a 9 cover, which is usually your traditional 21-22. I think we all agree Beetham's probably on the bench. Being able to cover, in theory, being able to cover 15, 10, and 12, depending on how you're feeling.
I wonder if you go 6-2 with Lewis Hughes and Lawrence, and then Clark and Beetham as your outside backs, then potentially.
I do think we need an extra. We don't really have another 13. I know, because I know we say about Adams, but I feel like Adams can cover fullback. So you've got Beetham who's covering 12.
Although
And then if you need a second one,
you could put Hamer Webb on there on the bench as well, and go for 3 backs, and then go for a 5-3, and Webb's just sort of because Hamer Webb has played 15 a bit in New Zealand last summer. So yeah, I don't know what he does with that, to be honest, because it is a risk going 6-2, especially it's towards the end of the season. Injury risk is higher, fatigue risk is higher. We're already struggling for backs, so if you end up like proper like 2 injuries down, I mean, we could be in all sorts of trouble after sort of 50 minutes if a couple of guys go down. But yeah, to just name 3 outside backs would be random on the bench as well. So I don't know what the smart play is there.
Who's your first port of call if you're okay? You've had 3 backs injuries. Who you calling in the forwards and going, right, you need to play back? Because normally you'd say 7, right? Everyone would go, autopilot 7, put your 7 there. If it's Thomas Young, great, but somehow Jim Botham.
Man probably would be ahead of Botham in my slot to the backs.
I would have gone Seb. Give Seb some time at centre. You get game line.
Yeah, I think Man is probably a decent enough sort of footballer and reader of the game that he could slot in at the centre if you really needed him to. Like if you play him at 12 or something.
I reckon Evan Lloyd personally.
Lloyd if you.
And he's still fairly recent his conversion to front row as well. So
yeah, that would be my port of call. But Seb, it'd be interesting to see if Seb would do it actually. Obviously, I've got plenty of memories of seeing Seb playing in the 13 jersey, but back then everyone else was slower around him, and it literally was under 7s probably. Well, under 12s maybe, but yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he would do it. But I think I want to say 6-2, but it does leave you open, doesn't it?
I feel like we're already in that position though, because the one position I'm most worried about would be 9, and we ain't got no one anyway. Heck, we can go 7-1 for like it. The problem is we don't have enough forwards.
I think
you'd have Daniel and Lloyd on the bench.
Let's be fair, like he's not changing. Even if Bevan has a stinker, he's staying on for 80. Like there's no, he's not gonna go
as long as he's fit.
I think De Beer probably plays 80 as well, unless even if he has a stinker, they probably stick with him. Thomas probably stays on for the majority of the game at 12, so it would just be about changing them outside back. So he could get away with just 2 outside backs on the bench of.
Yeah, I think I quite like the sound of Beetham and Clark. I mean, Jockey seems to quite like Max Clark, and to be honest, I think he's been, I wouldn't say fantastic signing for us this season, but whenever he's been called upon, he's done the job.
Yeah.
And then you could always push Mason out the last 20.
Yeah, they're all, as they like to say back in the sort of 80s, 90s, good footballers, aren't they? Beetham and Max Clark. So yeah, I can imagine they could fill in most positions. I wouldn't like to see Beetham at 9, but
also I think Tinas is the 9 cover.
Yeah.
But I would, just to make a general point about our use of the 9 as well, which I noticed the Lions were doing a bit last week, is that we got turned over quite a lot in the first half by being counter-rucked because we were waiting for the 9 to get there.
Oh,
just somebody else play the ball. It doesn't have to be the 9 who plays the ball. Ellis Jenkins is the goat at it. The ball's there, I'll just play it. Because we just get this moving.
He's a former 9.
Yeah, you don't have to. Right, I can see Bertrand or Bevan. They're on the way. Don't worry about it. We'll just wait for them to get it. No, just move the ball, and then they're even quicker to the next phase. Then just something that was annoying me on the weekend. I think it was 3 times we got counter-rucked in the first half because we were just waiting for the 9 to turn up. It's not a criticism of the 9 because it's got to cover quite a long way. We play quite expansively as well. Like we do go touchline to touchline a lot. So it doesn't matter if you drop it. Somebody else plays, and then Bevan and Bertrand and Thomas was always really good at it, popping up in the attacking line then as well and making stuff happen, being an extra body in there. So I mean, DuPont's the king of it as well. He wears 9, but he just plays wherever he wants, really. The amount when you watch Toulouse play, is
Speaking
probably
of sevens and breakdown
80% of the
threats.
time that only he services the breakdown. 20% it's somebody else.
Yeah, I honestly, this is preaching to the converted here. Like, it's one of my. I've actually been banned from saying it when I'm watching TV with my rugby games with my girlfriend. Is anyone can play nine? I say it was like my catchphrase in the Six Nations, catchphrase of the season. I just seem to be saying it all the time, and I'm so frustrated with saying it. You've teed me off for another rant, basically. But it like you mentioned all this, but Martin Williams is another one that jumps to
Yeah.
mind. I think of players. I am one of Wales's key moments, winning Grand Slam. Ken Owens picks up the ball from a scrum and chucks it. Like, anyone can play nine. Anyone can deliver a pass from a ruck. Like, or bar Bergamasco, but the the important thing. Sorry, I just don't understand when the ball is there, you're there, your nine's not. Just react to it. It's that idea of if you the most frustrating one I've seen is people make a line break and then suddenly it's like you're the third man in. I'm not going to pick up the ball. I'm just going to go into the ruck, and you're like,
lean. Yeah.
why? Just your scrum half standing there is waiting, is running over. It's taking a while. I remember '05. The amount of times you'd see Stephen Jones step in at 9 and Dwayne Peel be at 10 because he was just closer to the ruck. So therefore, that's the speed. That's the way we get speed of ball, and that's the way you get on the outside. Honestly, yeah, massive pet peeve of mine. And I think if that could be a message sent to everyone, and like genuinely, we talk about under sevens rugby. That should be an under sevens rugby of you play touch, you play tag, you play league. Anyone can play dummy half. Anyone can play scrum half. But yeah, anyway. Thank you.
The no nine call. The no nine call is there to say someone else pick it up, not wait for the nine. It does remind me of one of the Wales games during Pivac's reign. I can't remember who the opposition was, but we had Rhys Webb on at 9, and Jonah Holmes ended up coming in off his wing and then ended up servicing about 3 or 4 rucks because it was taking Rhys Webb forever to get from one side of the pitch to the other.
Yeah,
and, it's like it does have, yeah. But the point is, it's still and typically it's your wing. I know Steph Evans would do it a lot, but in his pomp for Scarlets. Leinster are brilliant at it. It's next. Bang! First person jumps off their feet. Second person jumps off their feet. Third person passes the ball. I think so. I think for the team, I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna say we're gonna go 6-2. We're gonna have Shane Hughes and Aaron Lawrence, and then at least then it's probably not the ideal second row partnership. But if we need to, we can change our whole second row, which is something I'm a big fan of when in big physical games. Okay. I hate the bringing a 6 into second row when you're being battered up front and not having an extra second row in. Anyway, so
Razzie over there. Said Harley struck Razzie over
there. Damn right. Replace your tight 5. Back rows can go 80. If I can do it, they can do it. A very shit 6. Speaking there. So we've got going in proper order 15 to 9, 1 to 8. We've got Winnett, Adams, Grady, Ben Thomas, Thea Cabango, Tina Stabir, Ellis Bevan, then Domachowski, Belcher, Azarati, Ben Donald, Seb Davis, Alex Mann, James Botham, Matt, and Big Mac. And on the bench we're going for Evan Daniel, Reese Carey, Reese Litterick, so a double Reese props. Rory Thornton, Shane Hughes, Alan Norris, and then Beetham and Max Clark covering basically covering everything from 12 out. Is that about right? Anything we want to change?
Just listening to that starting 15 out loud, it's probably 4 players off our strongest 15 at the moment.
I'd say I think probably Teddy, Thomas Young,
Faletau.
Faletau.
Yeah,
Faletau.
Teddy, Young, Faletau, and I would say Fit Bertrand, who probably just starts ahead of Bevan at the moment, and
potentially.
Fit Thomas starts ahead of both of them.
As he's still in the squad.
I'll say he's still here, but I'm hoping he watched that Gloucester game on the weekend. I thought might stay actually, but.
No, he's had a look at it and thought, well, I'm definitely going to be starting now.
But the bench is mixed up. but that's a pretty strong starting 15 if we went somewhere along with that. So.
Yeah, I think I'm happy that's about as strong as we can go. I said, I mean, I would have liked an actual 9 on the bench. I do believe 9's, unless you've got a winger who can comfortably play 9, it's always nice to have one of them. Yeah. So just quickly then, predictions. So Colin, you said Sharks by 3. Sticking with that?
Yeah, I'll give you a score. I'll say 24-21 as well. Oh no, hold on. We go for posts. 20...
Yeah, 21. We can get 21 by going for posts.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, go on. Then. Say that.
Yeah, done.
I'm going big. Cardiff by 10.
Oof.
To
be fair, that is
going to be tight.
An improvement for the Sharks. It's an improvement for the Sharks on last season.
That's true. I'm not doing a score prediction, but I'm giving it an exact scenario where Cardiff are leading by 3, and then the Sharks pressing, and then a Mason Grady interception under the post, sort of Nigel Walker-esque, goes the full length of the pitch, scores, conversion, first class for everybody on the way home.
Oh, do you know what? I think we're gonna have to start doing a prediction league similar to what we do on the wrap. Just because I think some of these would be great.
I'll be bottom. I'll be bottom by miles.
Honestly,
very pessimistically on wrap. I just checked mine. I've gone for Sharks by 12.
Boom.
Hey, I've got a league to win. Someone representing Cardiff should win something this season.
What is the worst prediction this season? Because I know what mine is. My prediction was Scarlets to beat Glasgow. Saying that one backfired. What they lose 350 at the end. So yeah, that was my worst.
Yeah, I know it was great. It was great. I've only just recovered from it. That's I've been comfortably leading all season. It's great. That's it. Right, that's enough of blowing my own trumpet now. So good luck to Cardiff against the Sharks. And unless there's anything else people want to discuss.
Better not discuss what I'm laughing about, so let's move on.
Can't be as bad as we're discussing about me breaking down laughing about Martin and his wife's interactions with the milkman last week. For that, you need to listen to last week's wrap. And with that, thank you very much, Carwyn and Dan, for joining me as ever.
Welcome up.
Cheers.
Thank you all for putting up and listening to us all. Good night.